Hello and welcome, friends, fellow traders, and investors. My name is Lloyd Logan Boucher from On Point Stocks and Options Trading. You can all call me Logan, and this is your midweek market update video. Hello, everyone. Exciting times we've been having this week so far with a gap in the indexes that actually broke all records. Let me pull up the indexes really quick to show you what I'm talking about here. Yeah, we had a 1,500 point move in the Dow Jones overnight, which was something that had never been seen before in history. And we had some of the indexes just massive gaps, which was kind of unprecedented. So, what was the cause of this news? Well, the coronavirus, which has been running rampant pretty much in every country and is leading to even more shutdowns. Pfizer and I believe it was Biogen, don't quote me on that, but I think it was Biogen, both announced that their stage three trials came out with a 90% resistance rate, which was very good. That means that they're actually coming up with a virus that will resist corona, should you have the virus shot. And with the numbers on the rise, that's a big deal. So the market gapped up massively on that news. Of course, it didn't really hold the gap so well. It did start coming back down. And many of the stocks that gapped up massively on that have also begun correcting, but there are a few outliers that did hold. What it kind of tells us, though, is just coming out of this election right now, and there's already a lot of unpredictability, and then seeing that this market had this massive gap up, and it just adds a little bit more uncertainty as to what's going on. And remember, there's no obligation to be in trades. You can always trade when the market, starts working smoother. But let's take a look at it and make some decisions as we go. So, first of all, SPX. We had a pretty big gap up, massive gap up, ran up, and then sold off the rest of the day. It actually came down and closed that gap, just shy of closing that gap on the SPX. But we did get outside of this consolidation range, and now we've retested that trend line, and it looks like we might be pushing back up. So maybe look for tomorrow potential rally in the SPX. I'm not going to say it's going to go up forever, but it is setting up in a scenario that it looks like it could be going higher. The real challenge is the fact the moving averages are so far away from price. And so that may mean a longer consolidation before we start going higher, but time will tell. On the NDX, the NASDAQ, the gap up was actually followed by an immediate sell off that broke well below and retested its moving averages. So we're looking at the NASDAQ tech sector looking considerably weaker than many of the other sectors right now. Dow Jones, we've seen that nice big gap up again outside of that trend line, never came back for a retest. It actually kind of held above the origin, the low it made on yesterday's trading day. So that's showing the Dow is a little bit stronger. Just remember though, the Dow is 30 stocks selected to be, strong trading stocks in the market, and so that's part of the reason for that. And we see the Russell, which actually had just basically a run up, held, and is pushing up near its highs again. So what we can see by looking at these indexes is we're seeing a cyclical rotation into the smaller cap type stocks by the looks of it. And in fact, if I go to the next chart here, if I go to the XLs, you'll start seeing as we look at the individual sectors that a lot of money has been coming out of discretionary and tech. They've really been the laggards lately, which were actually the leaders for the longest time. And a lot of money is moving into now financials. And we're still in consumer basic materials and industrials, and it's moving into energy and utilities. So we're starting to see the energy market, for whatever reason, I guess they figure if there's a coronavirus vaccine that everybody's going to start traveling again. Like, let's just go to Mexico right away. I mean, it's not tested yet. There's still a long ways to go before this thing's going to be proven safe. And even then, it takes time to develop vaccines. So it's not, anyways, it's a little bit presumptuous right now, I think, to be pushing the market up this much. But this is what the market does. It plays on people's enthusiasms and fear and greed, and then it moves it around and stops people out who aren't expecting it. So financial sector, energy sector, and we're seeing utilities again still kind of holding up, as well as in basic materials and industrials. So we are definitely making a move to smaller cap. We're seeing a laggard in the tech and the consumer discretionary sectors, and even healthcare is actually not looking that great right now. So there's kind of the flow of money going through the indexes. Let's quickly take a look at Okay, so let's quickly take a look at the economic reports. We did come out with a JOLTS job report, which was better than last week's, which is a good thing, slightly lower than they were expecting. That may have had a bit of an effect on the market. I mean, just a little bit of more security. API crude stocks came out as a big drawdown, so that supports higher oil prices. Tomorrow we're going to have nothing too big. OPEC report, nothing, that's more energy focused. Inflation is going to be coming out, jobless claims, and then initial jobless claims comes out on Thursday. So we'll see if these numbers can get a little bit lower. They're expecting them to drop slightly, which is a good thing. So less people on unemployment, less people going on unemployment for the first time. But remember, once again, this number is still it's about 3 times higher than it would be in a normal economy, more than 3 times higher than it would be in a normal economy. So even though people are going back to work, there's still 3 times more people that are getting laid off and going on unemployment for the first time even today. So that's still not showing that we're, maybe we're slightly recovering, but we are way, way, way from being back to a normal economic position here. On Friday, there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff, just a couple of FOMC speakers. That's about it. So not much in the economic report side. Now, I want to remind everybody all the charts, everything I'm showing you here is for educational purposes. These are no way suggestions for you to go and take these trades, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Trading is really a skill set, and it takes knowledge and skill to be able to do it successfully. And don't just go and take other people's advice and buy because they're buying without you understanding and knowing why. That's why I try to make these videos with at least some education involved as to my thinking process, so hopefully you can make a better educated decision. And trust me, I make plenty of mistakes. I made a big mistake yesterday. So let's quickly review that again. These are all for educational purposes and not suggestions in any way. Now, again, if you also like these videos, hey, click the like button. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that as well. Try and grow the channel, as always, trying to keep it going. Give me a reason to keep doing these things. So it's always helpful if you guys share them out. All right, now let's take a quick look. These were the trades from Sunday. Lululemon. Now, the trade setup on Lululemon was actually quite nice. It looked good. It looked like it was breaking up. And as I said, it was an aggressive trade. And the reason when I mean that, when I mean aggressive, is let me just get rid of this line. Is there was no confirmation yet. This thing had been in a downtrend. It broke up. It made a new high, but it didn't make a new low and then a new high to confirm that there was an uptrend. So if I was to draw it on the board, it didn't do this to confirm that there was a new uptrend, meaning breaking above the prior pivot high. It was in a downtrend very clearly, a downtrend, then it broke like it was a broken downtrend, setting up for an uptrend, but it's failed, or it hasn't yet failed. It just never took off the way I was expecting it. Now, we talked about what's called an aggressive entry and a conservative entry. The aggressive entry would be to enter that position before price reached or near these moving averages right here. In this moving averages in this action box. That would be the ideal scenario to enter that position in terms of an aggressive entry. Retest of the trend line. It would have been a pullback to a confluencing area of moving averages. But the downfall with that one was there was no confirmation in trend confirmation, which is actually very important. Now, full disclosure, I did take that trade, and yes, I did get stopped out. And the unfortunate part was I was actually outside working in the garage most of the day. And so when I came back in, it was actually way below where I was going to have as an acceptable loss. I didn't have a stop loss in because I was just doing the option, and the spreads are a little wider on Lululemon. But I was not anticipating it to go like double the average ATR. So it was a very unusual day in terms of movement for this particular stock. But coming off the big gap up like it was yesterday, I should have expected that. I should have been more on top of my game. So that's my own fault. So that was a bigger than expected loser for me. But I'm glad I got out because it did go down, and it doesn't mean it won't go back up, but I'm not going to withstand, a drawdown that much to wait for it to go back up because that's hope. I lock in my loss and I can always get back in. But as it stands right now, this is no longer a trade setup for me. So Lululemon was a failed trade for me as an aggressive entry. I did enter only half a position, which is good, but there was no entry if you were using a confirmation entry, meaning waiting for the candle to turn white. There was no entry for that. Now let's take a quick look at Walmart here. Walmart actually did come into the action box this morning. It came down, it retested the trend line and the confluencing moving averages. I had an order in place, and again, full disclosure, I actually was missed by about 5 cents. It not on the chart price, but on the option price, the spread remained a little bit wider than I was wanting, and it missed my entry by about 5 cents. I got a little greedy. It's all that happened, and so it kind of ran up without me, but that's okay. The entry for those who did catch it was right there. When that thing started turning white, that candle turned white, that was a confirmation entry. Fully, good fit in every rule anyways that I've been teaching. And so that would have been a great trade. And it's still going. There's nothing to say to get out of that trade. TVR, Travelocity, I believe it is, Travelers. This one gapped up and never looked back. So there is no trade set up there. And the other one, FDX, FedEx, it actually gapped down and dropped without giving a confirmation entry. Even the aggressive entry wasn't acceptable for me. I never took it. Didn't like the shape of it. It did not show like there was no like gap up. It actually gapped down. So no entry on that one there. Can always look for this to re-enter if it does decide to push back up, give another pullback, and then go something like that. An entry here would be a nice confirmation entry, but don't have it yet. So that's the trade setups from last Sunday. Again, those sitting on sidelines, that's okay because the amount of uncertainty with this type of market right now, with the elections, with COVID, just coming off these elections, they're being, they're being challenged, and the COVID and everything that's going on right now. I mean, it's a less predictable market to be in. Let's just say that less predictable market to be in. Now I do have some new suggestions for you here. So let's quickly take a peek at those. And these aren't suggestions. I shouldn't say that. They're not trade suggestions. They're educational suggestions to monitor and track for educational purposes. Got to say that nowadays. Such a highly regulated industry. Some of these are looking pretty nice. XBI. I really like the shape of this one right here. So right now, just consolidating in the context of this nice ascending channel here. Beautiful price movement. We got back up above the moving averages, kind of been holding above it. May not get a fill at this level, but I'm always looking for the wick down to give me the confirmation and then get in, or the aggressive entry with half a position and the rest on the confirmation. So what I would like to see tomorrow is, ideally, I want to see a gap up. I want to see a gap up open right like that, and I want to see this thing drop into the zone, drop into my action box, and start breaking back up so I can enter it and then enter some more as it's showing its movement. So that's ideally how I would want to see XBI. So I'll just magnify this chart for you guys to see a nice clear look of it. Great chart. Look at that. Fantastic. Just coming out of this nice downtrend, beginning its new uptrend. It looks very solid. So this is a good one, XBI. Let's take a look at BCRX, so BioCrest Pharmaceutical. Now this one here is like the classic rounded bottom or cup and handle, whatever you want to call this thing. It had its nice solid downtrend. It formed its resistance point, resistance tested, resistance broke, and it came and pulled back a little deeper than we'd like to see. But that was with a pretty big, move down on the market itself. And then it's actually given a really decent volume candle push up. I'd be willing to enter it anywhere in here. It did break the 21 moving average. It is above the 8, but I would be willing to enter it. So ideally, if you see let's see if I can change the color of this thing here. Let me just quickly do this. There we go. If we see it's not going to work, right? Because it's white. Let's change that. 1 second. Let me just change this to green. There we go. Ideally a gap down would be great as well. If we got a gap down and then it kind of rallied up like that, or even a gap up that led to a move down and then back up, that would be fine as well. So I'd be looking for that type of move. I always want to try and buy in as a discount on this particular one. And this particular one looks really good. There's, we got resistance up here. This is a cheap stock, by the way, $4. 468. And that's a pretty good percentage move when you take into account the fact it's cheap. So if we get in that zone like we're looking, that's a 15% move. but this thing could easily get up to $5 here. So I think there's a good chance for profit on this trade. All right, so this is BCRX. Let's take a look at limit brands here. So LB limit brands. Once again, really nice trending stock. It's going into a consolidation area here, and we did have a high volume sell off yesterday, but it's kind of pushing back with some pretty decent volume again. So maybe this one's a little bit more aggressive. It's got that kind of posture like it's holding, 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 holding. But I would be willing to take a look at this thing tomorrow, depending on the price action, how it works. And really, the big thing is this, and I'll come back to this in a second. You need the index to support what your impression is of the market movement. You got to have that index backing you. So if you look at the different indexes, can you say, is there some backing from the indexes? Should I buy something tomorrow? Is there backing from the index? Is it going to backstop me? Well, I got the SPX on its trend line, came back down to that little origin of that gap up, closed the gap, and it's left with a nice candle. It looks like, Dragonfly Doji looks like it's setting up for a push up. So I'd say that's backing. NDX tech, maybe not so much, not looking too good, but the Dow Jones is definitely, and so is the Russell. And this one's going to fit into the Russell. So I would say, you know what? It's looking like it could be a pretty decent setup. So limit brands, I think that might be a pretty decent limit brands. This is not in a Russell, my bad. So this one, it looks like it could be a decent setup. So that's going to be a setup for a long tomorrow. And then Viacom. So VIAC, Viacom. Now, once again, let me magnify this one here. This one is, again, it's been in a nice uptrend and it's been in a long consolidation. And it looked like it was about to break that consolidation, and it actually just came up and retested that pivot high just slightly short. And then we had a couple big selling days. Look at the volume on those candles. Look at that. Boom, boom, big selling days. But what's interesting is even though those are incredibly high volume candles, price never really went lower, did it? Those algos that are on that 50 and that 21 moving average, every time price came down, it just absorbed and absorbed and absorbed all those orders. Absorbed, absorbed, absorbed. It closed. Remember, it closed right here. You got to watch these candles and how they're priced. It closed right there. It gapped up and opened here, sold off, closed there. The next day, gapped up slightly and ran up. I mean, if that's not an indication that there's seriously a lot of buyers in this area right here, then I don't know what is. So definitely want to look to find this as a potential opportunity. Of course, you can always have a stop loss on it. Never enter trades without knowing how to manage the risk. And then, of course, that looks like if it's building a position over this period of time and this much is being absorbed, it could have a really nice run up. And of course, that was in earnings as well. So the earnings numbers came out and it held great earnings, but we'll see what happens. So that's the 4 charts I got for today. I'm trying to make this video a little bit shorter. Hope it was. Thank you very much for watching. If you like it, once again, give it a click, a thumbs up. I do appreciate your support, everybody. Remember, cash is a position. Be safe out there. Watch out for the COVID thing. I mean, I live in isolation pretty much. I'm going hunting this afternoon. And I wish you guys all the best. Have a great day.